Welcome to the Coach Speak podcast, built for coaches, by coaches, hosted by Jamie Bolton and Dustin Martin. Sponsored by Ray Crowther, providing the nation's best athletic training equipment since 1932. And R4 Football Systems. Accelerate everything by decoding the game.
Hey guys, welcome back to Coach Speak. Dustin Martin here with Jamie Bolton. We got a special episode tonight. Before we get going, I want to shout out to our sponsors, Team Builder, Tsunami Bar Sports, and Pro Quick Draw.
Yeah, guys, today's guest is one of the rising offensive minds in college football. Lane Knost has built explosive offenses and helped engineer major turnarounds and multiple stops across Division II and Division III football, including playoff runs and conference-leading production at Limestone and Shorter University. Now at Wofford College, he brings a modern offensive mindset built around quarterback development, creativity, and maximizing players within the system. Coach, we're excited to dive into your offense and how you build that identity, man. Thank you for being on.
Yeah, appreciate you guys, man. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. So look, at Limestone, you helped turn the program around very quickly. What changed first? Was it the offense? Was it the confidence the kids had, or y'all's expectations when you guys got there?
Yeah, man. So I was there 2 stints, actually. I was there from 16 up until COVID. And then I came back in 22, from 22 up until the spring of 25. And the two guys, the guy that brought me there both times was Mike Furry, the guy I played for in college, one of my mentors. Obviously he's the wide receivers coach now in South Carolina. He brought me there both times, and anytime Coach Furry calls, it's I'll be there tomorrow. So was excited to get there that second stint, and we started when we were there early in 16, 17. Man, we really started kind of getting things rolling. We started seeing some production. We saw some wins. We were heading in the right direction. Coach Furry got an opportunity to go to the National Football League, and when he left, it just wasn't quite the same. So when he came back in 22, man, we were kind of looking at it as like, let's finish what we started kind of deal, right? So we came back in 22. We had good players on the roster. They were coming off an 0-10 season, but man, we had good players and guys that just wanted to be coached and guys that wanted to learn and be challenged. And Coach Furry put an awesome staff together, man. We came in and obviously, because we got there right before spring. So we went right into spring. The recruiting class was already in. That freshman class was already in. There were some transfers that were already in. And so we kind of hit the ground running, going right into spring ball when we got there. We're kind of able to kind of see what we had, with each position group and everything like that. And we had some good players, man. Now we obviously, we recruited some guys after spring ball at some places that we needed, but we had a really, really good nucleus of players that were bought into what we brought, the energy that Coach Furry brought, the mentality, the excitement that he brings, and that he kind of pours into his staff, and we were able to kind of bleed into the guys as well. And man, we had fun, and we got after it 22. We opened up with Gardner Webb, which was tough. I mean, Gardner Webb, I think, went to the playoffs that year in FCS, and then we strung off like 4 straight wins, man. And they had lost. I think Limestone had lost, I don't know, 11 or 12 straight, I think, dating back to COVID and that 21 season. And so winning 4 straight was huge, beating Carson Newman for the first time and doing some special things that we did and it gave the kids confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we just started stacking wins and ended up going, I think 7-2 in the conference that year. And the SAC, obviously, as you guys know, is a great league. And we ended up beating Newberry in 22, and they were the conference champions that year, which allowed us to slip in the playoffs. And I'll never forget that day, man. We were all sitting in the locker room together because everyone was picking regional picks, right, for the playoffs, and we're sitting in there, man, and all those kids that went 0-10 the year before, they're all sitting in there just eager to have success, eager to have people believe in them, and man, when they called our name as a slot for the playoffs, going down to play West Florida round 1, that was powerful. And I watch sometimes, man. I'll still go back and watch that video on my phone of those kids just being excited about that.
Yeah.
And because there were some tough times, man. There were some tough times. Like, when I was there, when Coach Furry left in 17, 18, 19, well, we couldn't quite get what we wanted to get. We weren't winning the games that we felt like we could have won. And so it was all worth it, man, especially that 22 season when we were able to kind of get rolling. And then it was a snowball effect, man. We were able to get some great players in there because they were excited about what we did in 22. And so 23 was a great year. We ended up playing Valdosta in the playoffs. We went 8-1 in the SAC.
Wow.
And then in 2024, we went 7-2 in the SAC again, missed the playoffs. We went 8-3, thought we could have got in, but didn't get in. But we were 22-5 in the SAC in that 3-year run.
Yeah,
Which was tied for the best record in the SAC, which was a testament to our kids, man. They were bought into what we were doing. We had awesome coaches. It was a special run, man, and I was just fortunate to be a part of it for sure.
What do you think was like the big hump you had to get over from that year y'all weren't there? When they went 0-10, like, you come in, you say there's some good personnel in some spots, but there were some spots. Do you think the spots that y'all needed to recruit the most after spring was that big of a difference maker, or do you just think it was kind of a reset, standards, culture, the way we do things? Like, what do you think the biggest thing was?
Man, I think the biggest thing was just a culture flip and a mindset flip and a belief, right? And that's really what Coach Furry's about. I mean, he can make you run through a brick wall, and the kid and it bled into our staff, and our coaches or our kids believed in it. They were excited about it. And obviously we went out and got some help. We went out and got some help positionally. We got some guys that we knew we needed at certain positions. But I think if you look back, man, out of the 22 starters, I think 13 or 14 of them were returning players. And so the majority of them were still returning guys that were Limestone, truly Limestone guys. But I think the biggest thing, man, looking back is it was a culture shift. It was an organization piece of it. It was a belief, and us just continuing to pour into our kids of belief, love, and our kids just fought for us, and they fought for each other, and it just became contagious. And one win led to another win, and then those wins in those fourth quarters when those kids are digging deep, where they may have lost the year before, like they found a way this year. And when you're rebuilding a program, sometimes the ball's got to roll your way a couple of times, and I think we had some of that, which helped. But the grand scheme of it, man, I think it was just a mindset flip from our staff, obviously leading with our head coach and Mike Furry at the time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we've been around a couple turnarounds, and there's always signs. There's always like that one thing that you're like Justin's talking about, getting over the hump. And it seems like those adverse moments when, beforehand that might not have worked out, they start pushing through. And yeah, those are special times, man. But we're definitely excited about getting into your offense and how your offensive mind thinks. As we kind of get in this first segment, like let's say you get to Wofford or, Shorter University, like what's the first thing you evaluate from an offensive perspective?
Yeah. Well, with the Shorter piece, man, it was crazy, right? Because, Limestone closed in April 16th of 2025, right? So just a year ago. I'll never forget it because it was my son's first birthday. It was my son's first birthday, and it was the day that Limestone closed down, right? And we had an awesome team coming back, man. We had just finished spring ball. Our spring game was April 14th. We spent it, and April 16th is when it closed. And I had a recruit on campus that committed that day. Actually, I had to call him 45 minutes later and tell him like, "Hey, dude, school's closing." So it was really tough. So when I got to Shorter, man, it was tough, right? Because I got there in the summer. When the school closed down, in my head, I'm thinking like, man, we had one of the best offenses in the country. This will be easy. Finding a job. Well, it wasn't, reality, it wasn't. So, I emailed 63 coaches to try to find a job. And so, I had to get out of the house, fellas. I was door dashing, had to get out of the house, right? I was door dashing, just hustling, trying to make some extra money. And at night, when our son would go to sleep, I would just email coaches. And so I think 3 coaches emailed me back. 2 of them were saying, hey, sorry to hear what happened, but our staff's full, which understandably, right, in April, you finish spring ball, everybody's their staffs are kind of intact. So I had one coach reach out to me, and it was pretty neat. He called me, because a lot of people were calling me, but a lot of people were calling me about our players, right? Which and that was like our first order of business. We wanted to help our kids find a home, right? And so I got a call and Coach Morrison down at Shorter called and said, "Hey, I'm calling about you." And I was like, "That's pretty neat." And because it was tough, man. I wanted to coach. I'm good at three things: being a dad, a husband, and coaching ball. So I don't know anything else. Like I wanted to coach, and he gave me an opportunity. So I got hired late in the summer, and so when it came to eval, man, it was tough because our kids weren't there. I went straight into just going to summer camps, and right off the rip, man. In June we started Zoom. I started Zooming with the kids and started installing the offense, and I had never met any of the kids. And so, our first go at it really was August. I had like 2 weeks to really, face to face put in an offense with these kids that had never heard the terminology we were bringing. And so, when it came to eval and our kids, it was very on the fly there, right? It was, who's played football before, let's, you guys step up, like, cause it was a little bit different, a roster, obviously, that we had at Limestone. It was a different approach, a different culture. It was a good culture, but it was different. And so it was kind of bringing that same thought of Limestone more so than anything X's and O's. It was a belief, and so because at Shorter they hadn't won in a while, and so I was trying to bring that belief, and offensively they hadn't been what I believe could have been for a while, and man, those first 3 weeks it became it was tough. It wasn't what I was kind of used to at Limestone when, we were able to kind of dial some guys up and have some fun and play fast and play with tempo and take our shots and kind of see it develop the way in your mind you want it to develop, those first 3 weeks were tough. And, week 4, we finally started, the offense finally started coming to life a little bit. Our kids started believing a little bit, and there too, man, it was like, when I was coaching there, we had to really coach everything. And it was teaching our kids how to celebrate together. It was teaching our O-line to pick up our quarterback off the ground. It was teaching our guys how to run off, when we could make the first call and they're in the huddle, they'd run to the ball. Like, you run to the ball. Like, we're not jogging out there. We were teaching everything. And our kids really bought into it. Like I said, the offense started coming to life there in week 4. And I made a little analysis of weeks 1 to 3 from weeks 3 to 11. And the jump that our kids made and the progress that our kids made was really neat. And again, installing offense in 2 weeks, you're talking about eval, and it was more so like, we got to get this in. We play in 2 weeks, and it was everything kind of happened fast. So obviously, we had to find a quarterback. That was kind of that was kind of the big deal. We had to find an offensive line. We started two freshman guards, and so it was a lot of just trial and error because we had a short amount of time, and it was like, man, we gotta find out what we got. And we had a quarterback, we had a running back. So we felt good about that, but it was kind of putting the pieces together of some young guys that had never played college football, and I didn't know anybody anyway. And it was just kind of piecing it together on the fly a little bit. And like I said, week 4, we kind of started rolling a little bit,
Got it going,
piecing it together, and it was a lot of fun.
So, man, it's funny, Coach. Like, this obviously is a different situation, but I remember COVID. I think Jamie was in the interview process for his first head job during COVID, and I had just got my first OC job. And I remember, didn't you call me? It was like, man, I can't even get on campus. Like, I got hired, and I haven't.
I interviewed the next day. They shut down campus until July.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And so, like you, Coach, I'm sitting there like, all right, first time head coach. First, calling ball, trying to hire coaches, trying to it's a mess, man. And you just start thinking about like, well, I had all this in place, now what do we do? How do we figure this thing out? And so yeah, I can definitely, relate in some degree to that. But yeah, so when you're talking about this belief, what do you think it is about your offense that has given belief to these teams to make these turnarounds?
Yeah. Well, we talk about 3 principles that we live by as an offense, and the number one thing that we talk about in those 3 principles is preparation, right? And I love that because it starts with our staff. Like, our job is to prepare our kids at the highest level possible, right? Whether that's giving them in-depth scouting report, giving them the looks throughout the week, whatever that may be, going over the film with them, making sure they're seeing what we're seeing, preparing them. Now our kids have to do their homework too, right? They got to look at the scouting report. They gotta understand the information. They got to watch film. They got to do their part. But it starts with our staff and preparing these kids at the highest level possible. And once you've prepared them, okay, it's the kid's job to go execute it. Okay, we don't play no more, right? So we've prepared you. It's your job to go execute the game plan and go do what we're teaching you to do. Go do what we're coaching you to do, right? And the teams that I've been around that are prepared, right, and they're executing at a high level. They play with high level confidence, right? So that's the third principle in confidence. And people have asked me before, like, Coach Knost, you've had successful offenses. What's the secret? Well, there's not really a secret, fellas. Football's football at the end of the day. Like there's going to be some cool things that you do that may be a little bit different than everybody else. Your scheme might be a little bit different. The way you approach it might be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, guys, it's preparation, execution, right? And so we embody that and we hit that with our kids. And when you do that and the kids are playing confident, man, I kind of give the kids an analogy. It's like, fellas, like when you're up 14-21 nothing early in the first quarter and you break out of the huddle and the D-line's got their hands on their hips saying, like, I just want to go home, because they know they can't stop you. Like, that's the kind of confidence that you guys got to have. But the only way you get that is if you're prepared and you're executing, right? And so, and that's kind of what we embody, what I've always kind of embodied into our offense. And our kids have kind of taken off with it and enjoyed that, just preaching those three principles as much as we can.
Yeah, and I like that because your first one is kind of the ownership piece on what we have to do as coaches, and that was something I always try to make sure that our kids knew. Like this past year with the defensive game plans, like, listen, guys, I'm going to take it personal if we miss a line or if I call the wrong call. Like, I want y'all to understand, like, I'm going to do everything I can to put you in the right positions, but that's all I can do. All I can do is tell you where to go and what to play, and then you got to do everything else, which leads into your next one, the execution, and especially defensively tackling is all about confidence. Like, and that's what we would try to do. But I love it. I think that's very simple. There's some guys out there that have 17 words. I've been guilty of that before. Like, you have all these words, but it's like that's simple.
I got one from Coach Boskin, Jeremy Boskin. Shout out to him. He longtime high school coach, but his is ICE, and I stole that from him. So the I is, it's not about me. The C is control the controllables, and the E is extreme ownership. And I think a lot of those principles kind of flow into that too, which makes a lot of sense. Like the extreme ownership of, like, you're talking about, look, guys, I've prepared you. Now you got to go execute the game plan. Like, they got to take ownership of that as a coach. Like Coach Martin was saying, we have to take ownership as coaches, to implement that game plan. But I love that, Coach. That's awesome. What are some, like, how do you decide? Is it like tempo? Like, for instance, when you're thinking about like tempo, formations, balance, how do you decide like when and how to use all those things?
Yeah, I think that's part of your identity, right? So, like, for us, like, to kind of describe of how we're going to approach the game is multiple tempo, right? So what I mean by that is we're going to formation you, right? Multiple formations. We're going to give you multiple motions, whether that's, fly motion, whether we're shifting you, whether we're double motion you, whatever it is. We, at the end of the day, like, there's got to be a lot of communication on the defensive side of the ball, and we want those guys to have to over communicate. And so, and then obviously on top of that, it's playing fast, right? Throwing in your tempos in there, changing the pace of the game. We always want to dictate the pace of the game, right? We don't want the defense to do that. So we're going to play fast and play no huddle. We're going to get lined up. We're going to formation you, make you communicate, and we're going to motion out of that formation to another formation. We're going to turn 3x1s of the field to 3x1s of the boundary off the snap. We're going to do things to make 20 to 21-year-old kids have to communicate on the fly, right? And get that information to everybody else. But also keep it simple for us too, right? For us, like when we install, like we're going to be heavy in the formations. We're going to be heavy in the motions early. We're going to keep it simple, when it comes to calling the plays. But we can get into it a lot of different ways. And I know a lot of people say that, but man, like, it's easy for an offensive coordinator to try to get too cute and try to add too much and do all this. And one of my mentors, he was a high school coach for a long time. His name's Larry Blackstone. He used to always tell me, because I used to actually coach defense with him back at Limestone in 2017. I was his outside linebackers coach, and he always used to tell me, he's like, Lane, listen, he's like, an offensive coordinator will find a way to screw it up, right? And I always remember that. And I always try to tell myself, like, dude, don't screw it up. Like,
Yeah.
just play your game.
Yeah.
You can make it look different, but play your game, run what you're good at,
Yeah.
right? But just dress it up a little bit differently. And again, I know everybody talks about that and does it, but again, it's easy to kind of creep back into like, oh, this would be really cool though if we did this, this, and this. But it's like, dude, play your game. Like do like what your strengths are. Rep it a bunch and do that. Like don't try to get too cute, right? So that's what we do, and multiple tempos kind of the model of what will look like, if you're a spectator coming out to watch us play.
Yeah, and I think communication is important across the whole game, but the difference in miscommunication on offense and defense can be much different. So miscommunication with a double team block by the OL can result in a TFL.
Yeah.
Miscommunication between two DBs on a shift or a motion can result in a touchdown. It's
Right.
like so to your point, Coach, everything you're talking about doing kind of pre-snap and at the snap, it's like miscommunication can be more severe on defense in a way. I mean, don't get me wrong, miscommunication with a pass protection with a blitz off the edge could end in a strip sack fumble too. But, like that, Coach, what would you say, you're at the college level, so you can kind of recruit the personnel you want. What's your like favorite personnels, like your top two that you like to switch back and forth from? What would you say to this?
Yeah. So historically, man, I've always been an 11P guy and a 12P guy, right? I played tight end in college. That's kind of my baby. That's home for me. I always tell the tight ends, hey, selfishly, fellas, like, I'm gonna try to get you football. Like, you play tight end here, like, we're gonna have some fun, But that's always kind of been what my identity has been as a play caller. But I think that changes every year, right? Because at the end of the day, like, you got to be purposeful with your personnel, right? So, if we've got multiple wideouts that need to be on the field, you're probably going to dabble in some more 10 personnel. If you've got, again, like, do you want to take one of your speedies off the field if he's one of your best players and getting a 12P? Like, I just don't know. You know what I mean? So I think it depends on personnel, being purposeful with your personnel, finding out again what you're good at and attacking that. Like, when I was a shorter, we became more of a heavy 12P team. We had a really good running back. We had a quarterback that could run. That became who we were. We weren't really able to stretch the field as much as we did in 2024. At Limestone in 2024, we had a top 5 passing offense in the country. We had the guys on the perimeter. We had a player of the year quarterback and Dustin Noller, who was special, and so we were able to do that. So I think it changes every year, right? Like, I say I want to be 11 and 12, but like, is that who we are at the end of the day, right? Like, because every offense and every year is going to be a little bit different. It's just kind of being purposeful with that, not understanding who you are and what you got when it comes to personnel.
Yeah, I was taught, thankfully, very early on that, your personnel really dictates the formations you can run. So, like, in high school, you know how this is. Like, you guys are probably trying to recruit tight ends. Well, like, there might not be but 2 guys in South Carolina that are even recruitable at that position, so let alone a high school guy trying to make it work. And so we've always tried to, like, all right, do we take this? Is he a linebacker that doesn't start, or is it like a two-way guy that we try to, get in there and he's not super skilled, but he can block a little bit? And those are always the questions that I have. And it's like, well, do we have a fourth receiver that could maybe make some plays? And in high school, I think, it's kind of playing on that hybrid game. But I'm with you, Coach. I think it's very, very important to be strategic about when you use your personnel. So for us, we have 12 personnel packages, but, sometimes we'll use them in the middle of the field or as a change of, that would be like change of personnel, and then we can come back with like a 10 personnel, maybe go some more up tempo. But for me this year, I think I'm going to try to hopefully, and I might talk to you off air about this, but like packaging formations, motions, and shifts and double motions as a priority earlier in the install process. Because I think at the forefront, and we're already kind of past OTAs and we've done our April install. Now we're going to spring ball, but how do you install? I guess is my question lead into that. Like, we've kind of forefronted with some of that, but like, how do you prioritize your install specifically? And do you teach it conceptually? And can you kind of go into that for us?
Yeah. So when we do our installs, man, I always wanted to put a phase of the game with each install. So there was like a base with it, right? So like install 1 is always our base offense, right? Like these are bread and butter things. These are things we need to master. These are things that we'll run from week 1 all the way to week 12, right? Like, we're going to run them all the time. we'll get into it different ways, but like this is our base offense, right? And in our base offense, that's when our 2-minute offense goes in. So day one, install one is our 2-minute offense. And those are our base concepts. Those are concepts that we're going to master, because when we get in those 2-minute situations, like, we want our kids to be really confident in those concepts. Like, man, we've been running this since day one of August. Like, it's week 3 and we're in a 2-minute situations. Like, we've been doing this. Like, we're good. Right. So our install one is always our 2-minute offense, because that's our phase of the game that we put in. Install 2, we'll get into our backed up stuff. So then your heavier stuff comes in, your 12P, your backed up offense. You're trying to get past the 25. You're trying to flip the field, get 2 first downs. Right. So that was always, our phase of the game, and teaching the kids the phase of the game while you're doing the install too. Right.
I love that.
Like, here's our backed up offense. Here's why we're getting into a heavier package. Here's why we're doing these things. Right. And then the way it breaks it up install wise, it kind of makes sense to the kids. So then, like, install 3 for us was always like, hey, this is our third down day. Right. So like, here's our third down concepts, man, that we love and that we'll run all the time. Like, we got to really get really good at them and get a ton of reps out of them, get different, get defensively, allow them to give different looks. So now our quarterback sees multiple different looks through fall camp. When we get into the season, man, I've seen 4 or 5 different looks of this concept. Like, I'm ready to roll. Right. Install 4 was always our red zone stuff. So your red zone concepts will go in. And then install 5 was kind of our 4-minute church mode, end of the game stuff where you want to end with the football kind of stuff. So you're installing a phase of the game with each install and having kind of a basis with it. I've been a part of as a younger coach. I saw installs sometimes where it would be I always wanted it to make sense to me, and I always wanted to be able to make sense to the kids. Like, I wanted them to be able to say, hey, in install 3, like, this is our third down concept. These are our third down concepts that we love. Now, you're always going to pull stuff from your bank each week, right? Of plays that you might not be in the meat and potatoes of your offense, but man, hey, we've repped this before. This will be really good this week. We'll bring this out of the bank, put it in our game plan. So you don't ever forget about the plays in the bank. But when it comes to our base and like who we are and who we're going to be, like, that needs to be what you're repping as much as possible, whether that's in your base, whether that's your 2-minute offense, your third down, your red zone, whatever it is. Like, you got to get a ton of reps and a ton of film, right, on those things in fall camp and spring. So you're able to coach off of it a ton. And then the kids just get really comfortable with that stuff. And so we always put, but then too, again, like, I'm a big phase of the game guy. Like, I want to teach the kids about 2-minute. Like, I want to teach the kids about backed up and what is our goal in backed up? What is our goal in third down? Like, getting in manageable down and distance situations, the percentages, the game within the game. Like, hey, you get sacked on first down, you're 2nd and 20. It's like, hey, dude, all you got to do, you just got to get half of it back, right? Let's get to 3rd and 10, right? Let's get to 3rd and 10 so we can be in somewhat third manageable, whatever it is, right? So, we're trying to teach the kids the game within the game with kind of designing it that way with our installs.
That's such a big part too, because I feel like the way I've always done installs is just, how does it make sense from a teaching standpoint? So it applies to the kid, day 1 to day 2 to day 3 to day 4. And then it feels like you have to load in all the phases once you get to the season, especially.
Right.
Don't teach it early enough. And I think that could be something big in the summer for high school. And I remember in high school, man, the only 2 situations I knew was 2nd and short. Everybody was saying, watch the shot, and 3rd and long, everybody saying, watch the screen. Like, that was the only situational football I even remember as a player, and even getting to college, we touch on it a little bit as an offensive lineman, but I mean, it wasn't, 3rd and long, we better watch stunts and blitzes. That's just the base of it. So that's big. That's good. I like that.
And like you said, Coach, that's kind of how it's designed too, because you get to that week of the game and you've seen it, right? You try to. It's like, oh, we haven't done 2-minute yet, or we haven't talked about 2-minute, or like, hey, we need to get some more red zone stuff in, or whatever. By that time, you get to the game week. It's like, fellas, our offense is in. Let's play ball. We could play tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, we're ready. And so it gives the kids the confidence too. It's like everything's in. Now, obviously, like, your Hail Marys and end of the game Hail Marys, stuff like that. Like, obviously you got to rep, because you're probably not going to get that as much in fall camp and embedded into your installs. But, the bulk of your install is in. So when you get the game week, it's like, all right, let's play ball.
Yeah, I like that, Coach. And we always typically wait to the fall to do that. But now we're going to have about 11 days in the spring here. Um, no, it's the entire month of May technically, but we only practice 4 days a week. Then we have like a showcase, and then we have, whatever. But like if you had like an 11-day install, and I guess just here's the other question: how long does it take you to get through each phase? Is that like something you guys rotate through, or do you like, okay, we're gonna be on phase 1, day 1 and 2, or how do you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah, I think you got to do 2 days at least with each install. So you're getting,
Uh-huh.
again, multiple reps of the stuff. You're getting it on tape. And let me back up, fellas. I've been talking about concepts. Let's talk about the run game a little bit too.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
run
yeah.
game is very important, right? So, our run game, how we'll put our run game in too. It's like, hey, day one, your zone stuff, right?
Mhm.
Day 1 and 2 is going to be your zone stuff. Day 3 is your gap scheme stuff, your counter stuff. Day 4 is going to be more your power stuff. So there's kind of you're kind of building to it, kind of your who are you identity wise early, and then your change ups off of that as you kind of go through your installs. Um, but tell me your question again. Sorry, I just didn't want to forget about the
No,
run
no,
game.
that's perfect. Yeah, I was just thinking like we have a limited time in spring, and I'm thinking,
Yeah,
well, how many days would I take if I was
that's
going
right.
to do like my phase? And you
Yeah,
answered it perfectly. It's like at least
yeah,
2 days, and we probably
yes,
wouldn't move on unless we mastered that.
that's right.
So for us, we'd probably do like, inside zone would be like a day 1 and 2, and
Hmm.
then that would also incorporate our base concepts. Now,
Right.
within that, if that's like your base phase, how much motion and shift, I guess, is in your offense depends on how much you work in that base phase. Like, are you doing a lot of shifting immediately? Like, this is
Yeah.
just who we are. This is our identity. Or do you kind
Yeah.
of just say these are the base principles and then kind of layer on top of that later on?
Yeah. Yeah. So we front load when it comes to formations and
Okay.
motions early. When I was at Limestone, man, we kind of had a veteran group. So I would actually, and some people don't like this, but I would put every formation and every motion in day one. Now, that doesn't mean we'd run every formation and motion day one, but when you'd send the kids the installs, they always had it, right?
Hmm.
And something I always do in fall camp is I send the script out the night before, 24 hours in advance. So our kids can look at the plays, they can study the plays, they can ask questions prior to. So when we get on the field, there's no confusion, right? And so, it might be week 4 or I'm sorry, it might be practice 4 and we haven't ran this double motion yet, but it's on the script, but they can refer back to install 1 and it's in that bank there and they've seen it now. It's like, okay, yes, I remember we talked about this. Okay, we're running it tomorrow. Remind myself to ask coach about it in the morning, make sure we're on the same page. Right. So they could always refer back to install 1 that had everything,
Yeah. Yep.
right? But that doesn't mean we're going to run everything those first couple of days. It
Right.
might be like, hey, this formation or motion, we probably won't run it late till later in the week, but I want you guys to always refer back to it and always be able
Mhm.
to study it so it's right there in install 1 always.
Coach, are you a wordy guy or a reverse engineer guy or both? So like, are you like a explode to tidy right? Like, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Or is it like Tar Heel? You know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah,
And you don't have to give out your secrets, obviously,
yeah,
but like, what have you done? You do both? Like, what's kind of works? I know at that level you can probably get
yeah.
a little bit more wordy, but just curious on how you package it.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to like the signals or the play call,
Yeah.
it's kind of into 3 phases where it's like, hey, here's your formation and motion, here's your protection or run play, and then here's your RPO or whatever it may be on the back end, right? So
Sure.
it's kind of into 3 phases and yeah, you're always going to you're always for us like we try to signal who's motioning for the most part,
Hmm.
unless it's like a shift where multiple guys are moving on or moving around. So those guys know it's like, okay, I'm moving here. I know who's moving. The Z knows who's moving. The Y knows who's moving because we're signaling who's flying around, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done it both ways. But I
Sure.
think the way my brain works, like I got to hear the shift call to the formation or
Sure.
getting in the formation and breaking formation into, a fast motion or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That also
hearing
keeps
that.
it. Yeah, it also keeps you from like locking yourself in.
Yeah.
Like if you can run out of words. So like I'm always like a big like one word guy, but I kind of
Yeah.
use a hybrid system too. But I've found that it can kind of lock you in if you want to like
Hmm.
change something else. Like we've run out
Right.
of toothpaste here, guys. We don't know any
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
toothpaste calls. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember at my second year at Cannon when I was sitting with Caleb, I said like we had formation motion calls, and then we had actual like word families for like where you're building in a formation, shift, and a motion. So like
Mm-hmm.
Roy would be, hey, we're starting in trips right, one back. We're going to shift to pro. That both of those guys are going to go pro strong, and then we're going to motion the receiver to make it basically tight end wing twins. And the kids, we would spend a whole period, hey, working through, hey, Roy,
Right.
you know, but like Jamie said, you kind of pigeonhole yourself. That's all you're ever going to be able to do with Roy, you know.
Right.
But I
It's
do like that though, because that'd be a heck of a call.
oh, it's because the best part
High
is
school, you're
like,
signaling, you're like, I don't even know what to. Yeah,
right? Because the thing is, you know, the way we
Swatting
kind of looked
flies.
at it was, okay, let's say we take we're very simple, 4 formations into the game. Well,
Mhm.
now if we have 4 ways to start in a completely different personnel formation and we have a shift in a motion build in, well, now we just multiplied everything, but we're just going to run the same plays. You know, like if our tight end wing twins, we have 4 plays out of it. Well, now if we have 3 other formations, we can start and shift to that. Well, now you just take 3 times 4 essentially. So it worked. You know, we didn't do it often, but when we did, we felt like it was okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay. Well, Coach, let's go into kind of like your play calling. I mean, you know, not specifics here, but like, what are you trying to feel early? Like, this is our next segment, kind of thinking about play calling and quarterback thinking. But when you're, you're calling the game, like, what are you trying to feel early in games? Like, do you script and then talk through that?
Yeah, so you'll always go in with your openers, right? You'll do 12 to 15 openers. We usually do 15, and you know what I was always taught was, hey, you kind of want to throw the kitchen sink early to kind of see how people are going to react to things, right? You know, how's the defensive coordinator going to react to all these different looks and formations and motions, and then you kind of settle in after that, right? And I think too, like when I felt like I started really understanding play calling, man, is when I started watching full games and kind of seeing how defensive coordinators operate. Like, are they emotional, right? After a big play, are they going to try to heat you up? You know, percentage wise says like, hey, they're bringing it. If you 30 plus, they're bringing it. If you gash them on an explosive, right? And things, and that kind of helped me settle in, kind of understanding the flow of play calling. And I think the way we play and the way we again change the pace of the game, it allows us to slow it down when we want to slow it down, when hey, we need to take a breath and regroup here, or it allows us to play fast and steal yards. Like I like to say, steal yards. You know, when the defense is still looking at the sideline trying to get the call in. You know, and trust me, I'm not a finished product by any means. I've had some good players that have bailed me out many times, and you know, my play calling isn't perfect. I like to think I'm pretty good at it, but you know, I think it just kind of depends. You know, who you're going against, what looks you're getting. At the end of the day, like for things to work and the play calling to work, guys, kids got to be comfortable in what you're doing. The kids have to understand the operation. They got to understand the scheme. They got to understand what you're trying to accomplish. The ins and outs of it, right? It goes back to our 3 principles with our kids playing with confidence. You know, I'm a believer in, man, you can call whatever you want if kids are confident about it. Like, they got a shot, right? Like, we'll sit with that. For us, like, we'll sit down with our quarterbacks on Friday and we'll go through the call sheet. Like, call sheet should pretty much be done by Friday. We sit down with the quarterbacks and I'll ask the starting quarterback, I'll say, hey, do you like this? And if he hesitates, does one of those, I take it out because it ain't going to work. If he doesn't believe in it, it's not going to work. If he doesn't say, coach, that's a freaking touchdown, right? if that's not his mentality, I'm taking it out, right? And that gives me the confidence in calling the plays too, knowing like, okay, our kids believe in it. Our kids understand what we're trying to accomplish. They believe in the scheme. They believe in the play call because we're all on the same page, right? And that's, you know, at the end of the day, you can call whatever you want. If kids don't believe in it, it ain't going to work. And so I think the way we teach it, the way we coach it, the relationship we have with our kids, like, we're all going to be on the same page, and for it to work, they got to believe in it.
Yeah. And I think there's like 3 parts to game planning. You know, who is their personnel in the field? What is their strategy they like to run in terms of scheme? But also the third part that a lot of people forget about, and you hit on it, coach, is who is that person who's calling it on the other side? Because, you know, we live in a world of AI this and AI that and AI this and AI that. But let me tell you something. When it comes down to nut crunching time and there's 2 minutes to go and you're down, That
Yeah.
guy's got a tendency, who he is.
Right.
Who is he on PN10? Who is he? You know, a lot of
Right.
offensive coordinators that we played this last year was after they earned a first down, they're going to hand the ball off because they're like, okay, we got it going. Now let's just call something safe to get it going.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important part you hit on is understanding you also can game plan the person you're going against because
Absolutely.
whether they believe it or not, they can self-scout all they want. You are who you are, you know, and unless you're going to say, okay, I'm going to intentionally go against what I would actually do in this situation, at some point in time, someone's going to be able to dial something on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I hope, you know, when defensive coaches play against us, you know, that at the end of the day, they're like, man, I hate game planning for you. Right.
Yep.
And then 2, you know, you hope as a play caller that people are saying like, man, this kid's kind of ballsy. Like he's got some stuff to him. Like he keeps you up at night, you know? I think that's a compliment. Like I don't want to walk away from a game like being like, man, I should have called this. I should have called that, you know? Now there's been times where I've been like, shoot, I should not have called that. Right. Naturally. Like that was dumb. Right. That was not
I
smart.
think we've all been there. We've all been there. Man.
Yeah.
No doubt.
But at the end of the day, like you know, we're going to take some risks. Like we're going to have some fun. We're going to take some shots and I've always wanted to be that way. Somebody that where the defensive coordinator is kind of like losing a little bit of sleep. Like man, this kid wants to get after us. You know,
Yeah, I love that.
But Jamie, I'll never forget on Friday. So me and Jamie would ride to the game together on Fridays, and we kind of debrief OCDC, and I would love when Jamie says, "We're taking some shots tonight, so just be ready." He said, "We're either going to strike the band up, or y'all might have to go play."
There's one game we're playing, and you know we're making this late fourth quarter comeback charge, and man, I'm like going down the list, man. We got like 2 more left, man, in the tank, and like we finally hit the last one. Huge post over the top, called him in like some trap coverage and just got out leverage at the corner there. And the guy drops it. I'm talking about wide open, going to tie the game up. And I'll never forget looking at the head coach. I'm out of bullets, man. I don't, we ended up going down the field and scoring. So, you know, the kids did great. But yeah, it's just, I always want to empty the tank, you know, empty the magazine, as they say.
Every time Jamie would tell me that pregame, I would always walk up to our sophomore quarterback and say, "Hey, man, just have fun. Trust your coach and trust your reads. Have fun."
Right.
And if Jamie would tell me that he had a lot of shots in, I'd say, "Hey, man, don't be scared tonight. Just
That's
take
right.
it. We got your back.
Right.
We got your back."
He'll rip it. He'll rip it.
Right.
He's like Brett Favre.
And I don't know if it meant anything to him, but it was like, "Hey, man, the defense says, dude, if you throw a pick, it's okay, man. Like, just let it ride.
Right.
Don't be scared. You're a
That's
sophomore,
right.
man.
Yeah.
Like, you're a
Don't
sophomore.
be scared, man. Let it rip.
Hey, man, somebody's
Yeah,
fixing
let
to
it rip.
catch this ball. I don't know who it is.
No doubt.
Oh, good.
Coach,
So, Coach,
you know,
what? Yeah, go ahead, Dustin.
all right, I was just going to kind of get into, Coach. I'm just curious, you know, when you're kind of getting into the flow of the game, you know, when you're going against some of these teams at the level you're at, you know, in high school, there's a big difference, and sometimes we'll see a team that runs the same 5 plays, the same 4 formations, and like there's no spin to it. So when you're like game planning for defenses, does that change kind of week to week? Do you have those guys who do a ton of stuff and you're like, oh my goodness, we're going to have to make sure we motion to dictate what they can do? Or do you see some opponents where it's like, man, they're just running like 6 different versions of cover 3 and dropping a different guy? You know, what do you see most, or does it change week to week?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different, right? Like everyone's got a different base, a different look. Whether you know 4 down, 3 down, are they a quarters team? Are they pattern matching? Are they spot droppers? Are they going to play 1 high and get the extra guy in the box? You know, the 3 high safety stuff is kind of hot right now. Where especially on 3rd down, where kind of you know it's tough a little bit on 3rd down and so everybody's going to be different week to week, and how you approach it. You want to approach it similar, right? You want to game plan the same way, but it's always going to be different each week because you're going to play somebody who's a 3 down or 4 down or whatever it may be. Hey, they pressure a lot more, or hey, they're going to twist you up a lot, or whatever it is. But the approach needs to be the same in my book. You know, you don't want to lose who you are by being like, oh shoot, they're doing all this stuff. We got to change this, and this. It's like, play your game. Do what you're good at, right? It goes back to just being who you are. And again, it goes back to Coach Larry Blackson telling me, hey, an offensive coordinator will find a way to screw it up because he'll think too much. He'll try to do this, and this. We're going to be who we are, and we're going to play our game. And you know, defenses are going to give you different looks every week, but it's our job. Again, it goes back to the preparation piece of of repping those things against multiple different looks throughout the week to get the kids comfortable. And by the time they get to Saturday, it's like, we've seen this, we've seen
Yeah.
this. We know what to expect.
Yeah. And there's a fine balance, I think, between, scheme and execution. Like I've always been a big execution guy. I think if there was a sliding scale, I'm probably more on the execution side. So, and it's probably because I haven't had, up until the last couple of years, just a lot of really good athletes, especially on the edge and perimeter. And so it's like, you know, not really going to try to scheme as much as maybe try to get them to catch the football and like run space well and drop step and get skinny and just the little details about the game. And so I think it's almost like the more athletes you have, you don't have to do as much scheming unless you just want to get touches. But that's just always something in my mind. I'm like, God, I really want to add a wrinkle or two, but I really don't know if this is going to. I'm always worried about clouding it for the quarterback too. Okay, like let's say we add like a fly motion or a little mini shift. It's like, well, if we're like hard folks in a, key, if we're key reading a defender here, well, do I really want to mess with it that much pre-snap if we have a really good look? So my thing's always been like, let's formation to like, really make sure our look is good or versus motioning where that look may change pre-snap. Is that something that you think about too?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think early in my career, I would sometimes try to get too cute with like, hey, we can motion this, motion that. But it's like, dude, they're giving us the look out of the base, right? And so you want to try to, you want to motion people. You want to do all these things. You want to get the angles for the, for tight zone where you motion this way, the backer's got a bump. He gives you the angles. You're running back to the boundary, whatever it may be. But at the same time, if you give me the look pre-snap, it's like, do I need to do that? You know what I mean? And part of part of what we've been is we've always been a movement team. Like we've always moved anyway. And so, I think it's allowed us to kind of stay in that realm of moving a lot. Like I don't like being stagnant. I need to do better sometimes of being like, hey, if they're giving us the look at stagnant, just be stagnant. You know what I mean? But maybe it's like, okay, if they're going to give you a stagnant look, well, then at least I'm going to bump back or do something where like, if they're setting, if they're setting front to back or whatever it may be, like I'm bumping the back or doing something to just give it something different, give it a different look, make them have to say something, make them have to communicate just so it's not a stagnant look all the time. Cause to me, it's like, I want offense to be exciting. Like to me, it's like, you're just coming out in the same formation every time. It's like, dude, it's a snooze fest. Like I want fireworks. Like let's play some ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, I guess where that comes in the game planning is a big part of it. If you're a big motion shift team is understanding what does the defense run and what is their adjustments for those shifts and motions. Like, are they a slide it or a spin it, a sling it? Like, what do they do? Because, especially run game, if you're identifying a mic and the OL's like trying to, and then you shift or motion and a new mic based because they're a slide team, it's like they got to be smart enough or, it might be something where you go from 2x2 to 3x1 and they're a weak rotation team. Well, they have to be aware of that. It's
right. It's crazy on both sides because you're coming from the defense perspective. Like, dude, I would hate a team to run stick like 5 different ways with like motions and shifts and like all this versus lining up one way and running it. From my perspective, it's like I really don't want to have to motion and shift a bunch because I'd really like to go really fast. And then we have the same look every single time. And if it's not there, we just run it, or like whatever it is. So like it's a cat and mouse game from like, this execution versus also making it hard to prepare for, that's something that I got to grow into. Like I want to have an offense that's not like, well, damn, they execute really well. It's going to be hard if we don't play enough in the box, or it's going to be hard if we don't flood the coverage. But if we add elements of, now they're shifting and motioning more and they're moving the personnel around that we can't get a beat on them, it makes it even that much more difficult and puts more pressure on the defense. So definitely warranted on both sides of that for sure.
Yeah. And I think, you were talking about, playing fast, right? Like that's obviously when you're going to be more stagnant, right? When you're trying to snap the ball at 6 or 7 seconds, trying to steal yards. And with that, I think it's really neat, man. It's like, as a defensive play caller, it's like, dude, you got 3 options, right? It's getting the base look you can get in because you can't get the play call in time.
Yep.
Pressure it, or just refer back to that same call you had the play before, right? So once you figure out like kind of what their call is going to be to playing fast, then you can kind of dial things up and dictate some
That's a
things.
great point.
To your point, to your point of like, okay, yeah, we'll be stagnant here, but we're going to snap that ball with 6 seconds after the ball is down. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to play fast, and there's only a few things defensive coordinators can do. So it's like, in my opinion, it's like advantage offense, right?
It's a great point. It's a great point.
So, Coach, with your quarterbacks, like how much freedom do you give them? Do they have a lot of options to like check, or is it, hey, we're going with this, and our system allows like, will it be like a progression change, or maybe we're just checking opposite in the run game? How much freedom does he have?
Man, I think it depends on the quarterback, right? Like, when I was at Limestone, I had a veteran guy, started a long time. Him and I were on the same page with a lot of things, and I allowed him to do a lot of things that he was comfortable with. Like, I remember, man, we were playing Mars Hill. It was the last game of the year. This is the wildest thing ever. We're in two back, right? And our two back was, we called it at Limestone, we called it Detroit, Tennessee. It was our tight end was in the backfield. So it looked like two back was our tight end, right? And so we were running split zone to the running back, right? The tight end's going to slice back to the defensive end. We're going to run split zone. Well, our quarterback checked it opposite because it looked better to the field. And so our running back ran split zone, and he handed it to our tight end, and he scored a 25-yard touchdown. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's something Dan Casey's putting on Twitter, like they dialed it up,
Yeah,
like,
and it was like, I couldn't believe he did it. But it was like, but that was the trust, I had in him and he had in me. And so, like, I think when you have a guy like that you can allow to do some things like that, if you don't have a veteran guy that's played a lot of games, that's played a lot of football, that's seen a lot of things, I think you got to make it a limited list for him. So he's not overthinking. He's not trying to go out there and think too much. He can just play his game, play fast, and react fast. So I think if you do that, it's like, hey, we want to run jet sweep here to the boundary, but they're three, they got to stand up in. It's like, you probably don't want to do that. Hey, we're going to can it. We're going to run inside zone. Stuff like simple things, that just allows him to, like, okay, if I get one of these three looks on these three plays, like, I can make a check, but that's it. You know what I mean? So I think it kind of depends on the kid too, where, are they comfortable? Do they see it the way you see it? Are they able to, have more information and still perform at the high level that you want them to?
Yeah, no doubt.
Very good.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we got a super smart quarterback. He'll be in the second year. He's like one of those 5.9 GPA kids or something. So he asks all the inquisitive questions. But no, I think we're certainly going to give him at least a menu, here and there that kind of match our checks. But no, Coach, it's been great so far, man. We're going to go into rapid fire. Are you ready for that, Coach Martin?
Yep. I got one thing I was going to ask him real quick. Man. Just one of the scenarios we had, Coach. Your quarterback is starting to force throws in the game. He's trying to make more happen than he really should be. What is your kind of approach? I know a lot of people would probably love to hear this, but at the level you're at with the quarterbacks you have, how do you try to settle your quarterbacks down when they begin to try to take on too much and do too much?
Yeah. I had a conversation, with our quarterbacks during spring ball. I got to Wofford the first day of spring practice. Like, that was my first day.
Wow.
So I kind of dove right in, and I was able to kind of like sit back and kind of watch and kind of see how our kids operate and how they work, and which was pretty neat. But I sat in with the quarterbacks, and I asked some of our quarterbacks that I thought were being hesitant. I was like, hey, look, think back to the first touchdown pass you ever threw. Think about that. Like, think about that feeling, and think about like what that moment meant to you. Like, were you just having fun, or were you like analyzing this, and this, and trying to do this, and didn't want to make this mistake, or were you just playing ball? I'm just playing ball, Coach. I was like, then be that guy for us. Go play your game. Quit overthinking. Cut it loose. Have fun. Strike up the band. Lead these guys, and let's go play ball. I think just a quick pep talk like that can kind of be like, okay, we're good. Let's settle back in. I think it's just, at the end of the day, at that position, as you guys know, like, you got to have a lot of confidence, and you got to have, the staff has to believe in you. Because if you're second guessing the quarterback, it's going to be a long season. If you believe in that guy, if you believe in the sheriff out there that's running the show, if he's struggling a little bit, then you got to bring that belief back in his heart. You got to pump that into him, pump him with confidence, pump him with love. And so he knows like, okay, no matter what happens, we're going to be all right, but I'm going to go out there and play freaking my game. I'm going to play football. And I think it's just a confidence piece that for him, like it just settled back in a little bit.
Yeah. So we're not yelling in the kid's face.
Yeah. No. I mean, now listen, there some of that, right? Like we're going to coach hard, but we coach
if
hard
it's like an effort thing or something like that.
But if it's like if it's just like, hey, you're overthinking or, whatever it may be, it's like, I tell our kids will never hear me cuss on the field. I never cussed our kids. You'll never hear me cuss on the football field. Now we coach hard and we demand excellence, but at the end of the day, like you build that relationship with the kid early. We're not afraid to tell our kids we love them, and they need to hear that. And so once you've done that, you can have those heart to hearts and get after them a little bit, being like, hey, you know what to do. You're better than that. Cut it loose, let it rip, have fun, go play your game. Just settle in a little bit.
Yeah. I've had experiences where it's almost kind of been the opposite, where they're maybe not so frustrated with, or maybe they're not nervous or pressured, but they're more like overly confident in what they're doing. And so I can remember this I was coaching a kid at Cannon, very, very good quarterback, Tyler Green. And I'll never forget this moment. So I think it was our first season together. He was a freshman and he ripped one and almost got picked off or something like that. And came out and said, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you looking at? Yeah. He said, Coach, man, he told me specifically what he saw. He said, he had a square hip angle and I was going over the top, whatever. So I come over, I'm looking at the iPad and the dude is 100% correct. So that's the last time I ever opened my mouth and said something like that. So now my words are, hey man, what'd you see there? And so that goes a long way with our rapport, with like the communication piece. Hey man, what did you see that made you, want to go with that? And after he answers it, I'm gonna say, well, I trust your judgment. Let's look at it. So and then kind of coaching them through it. But we've had some of the overconfident guys, which I'd rather coach those guys and
no, absolutely. Funny story. So when I was a Shorter, our quarterback, he was a good player. He did an awesome job. Loved the kid. It was his first year starting. And so, we had some turnover issues kind of early, and we're playing Barton. Man, I'll never forget his first quarter. And our biggest thing was just like protect the football. Like that was kind of our like point for him that week, was just like play your game, protect the football, play your game. And, it was like 3rd and 10. And, cause he was a gunslinger. He was a guy that thought he could make every throw, and he could for a lot of the time, but sometimes he'd get in trouble. And man, he checked it down to the back and we got 3 yards and it was 4th and 7. And I was so fired up. He got on the sideline. I got in the headset, dude. I was like, dude, it was 0-0. It was early in the game. I said, dude, I'm so proud of you for not forcing that ball. Cause I know he wanted to, cause he cocked back like he was going to let it rip. And that defender was right underneath it. And he just ended up checking it down. We only got 3 yards for we punted. And I was like, but dude, but that's like, I get on the headset with him. You're talking about pumping with confidence. I was like, dude, that was awesome. Like play your game. And the cool thing is he ended up going that game. I think he was 27 of 32 and was player of the week in the conference. Ended up being conference player of the week that week. Played a great game, but because he just took what they gave him and he just played his game and didn't force it. And I think it was just those conversations of the confidence we were pumping into him, and just like being okay with like, dude, you checked it down, like good job.
Yeah,
like that's okay. Like, hey, live to see another day. We got a lot of ball ahead of us.
A big growth moment for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I think that was a great rapid fire one, man. Do you want to kind of wrap it up? Yes, do one more.
Do one more.
All right,
Go ahead, you hit it.
Yeah, and this is what I wanted to ask earlier, but you want to take your shots, you want to create explosives, and this may be kind of a vague question, but in your game planning, how do you like to, take those or set up those shots in your system?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it starts with running the football, right? I mean, those shots and you hard play action faking, and people aren't biting. It ain't gonna, if you ain't running the football consistently and doing well, running the football, it ain't gonna work anyway, right? So you got to be able to run the football. And I think too, like for me, I always like you got to marry it with your run game. To me, you got to formation it a similar way. You got to motion it a similar way. And so for me, it's like, man, when you cross the 50, it's fair game, right? But again, it starts with the run game. You got to be able to run the football to be able to get what you want. And then you always got to have a way out in your shots, right? So for us, I like to always have a check down on both sides. So everything's 3-level stretch, so you're working top down, so it's an easy read. You're keying through the boundary safety, and he kind of tells you the story. But to set it up, you got to be able to run the football. I mean, that's pretty black and white. That's pretty obvious. But what's fun too is when you get into tempoing to those kind of things, right? Playing fast and getting into those kind of things when you may run the ball in that formation, tempoing to it multiple times, and then here comes a shot out of it when they're not expecting it, and they're loading the box because you're getting 3, 4, 5, 6 yards a pop, and now you get to take it over top. And I think it kind of just depends, right? I think it also kind of depends on where you're at in the game, the flow of the game, the confidence your kids are having at that moment. You get on the headset, and you tell the guys like, "Hey, let's let one rip here." I remember, we were playing, last year we were playing North Greenville, and it was fourth quarter. We were down 10, or I think we were down 7 at the time, and it was the first play of the drive, and I just got on the headset. I got to the quarterback and I say, "Hey, buddy, you want to rip a shot here?" He's like, "Absolutely." And it was a 75-yard gain. So we got tackled inside the 5. Unfortunately, we got tackled inside the 5, but it was a big play, and so I think you can call it at any time, but I think you got, and we rushed for 265 yards that game. So it allowed us to get those one-on-one matchups on the perimeter, because they were loading the box and they were trying to stop the run. Well, then we were able to get the shots that we wanted because we were toting the pill pretty good that game. So I think it starts up front, being able to do that, to be able to dictate what shots you want, when you want them, where you want them. Because again, when you're running the football like that, it's fun because you can do it anytime you want, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. As I was listening to y'all kind of talk on the offensive side, I started thinking defensively, like, what is the same thing as like setting up a shot, packaging formations and run plays and shots. And I think that's kind of where like your pressures, your sims, and your creepers come in on defense. It's, what is our shot? Well, our base call is this. And then we want to bring a heavy pressure, but then we want to simulate like we're going to do it in hopes that even though we only rush 4, we're going to get home with that shot per se. So, it's the first time I've ever thought about it like that, just kind of hearing you talk, the way you package your personnel. But I agree with you. Like, shots in high school only work if you're killing us in the run game, because like Jamie says all the time, play action hardly works in high school because the linebacker's not fitting hard. Like
linebackers aren't reading guards anymore, man.
Right. That's right. No doubt.
No, man. This been great, Coach. A lot of insight. Maybe next spring, we can get up there or down there and watch you guys and kind of see how you do things, man. But best of luck to you moving forward.
Yeah, appreciate you guys, man. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on. This was awesome.
Appreciate you taking the time to be on, Coach.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. See you in the next one.
Thanks for tuning into the Coach Speak podcast. If you're interested in being a guest speaker on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at coachspeakpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you have a question for our Q&A segment, don't forget to submit it through the form in the episode description. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.